we're talking about abiotic disorders or diseases of plants. So abiotic on the left here, we've got edema on Pelargonium. So the plant took water up too quickly. It couldn't get rid of it fast enough, so you get this blistering on the underside of the leaves, very common on Pelargonium. And then on the right you can see the bumps on here are actually the fruiting bodies of hollyhock rust, which is a fungal disease. So with abiotic problems, you're going to see a regular distribution throughout the plant. Quick rate of appearance, all of a sudden it happens. One to many species may be affected, and it's non-contagious, it does not spread. So some of the factors you may see are nutrient deficiency, drought, waterlogging, air pollution, pesticides, construction, girdling roots, trunk girdling. And when you have mobile nutrients such as potassium, phosphorus, and nitrogen, you're going to see the damage in older leaves. The new growth is going to be more green. When you see symptoms on the new leaves, it may be a deficiency in something like iron because it doesn't move through the plant quickly, so the lower leaves are going to be green. Okay, so nutrient deficiencies can cause all kinds of problems. It may cause yellowing or death around the margins. You may have fewer leaves, flowers, and fruit. And even if they do develop, they develop later than normal and remain undersized. And the most severely deficient plants become stunted and show dieback. And for the most part, nutrient deficiencies are not going to happen too much in woody landscape plants. If you do see them, it's going to be nitrogen and iron most commonly. And it's usually not due to the deficiency in the soil. The nutrient's probably there, especially with iron, but if the pH is too high, it's not going to be available to the plant. If you've got too much of one nutrient, it can actually cause another nutrient to not be available. So if you've got too much phosphorus, you may not be able to, the plant may not be able to access iron or zinc. It could also increase the soil salt content. Excess potassium may result in deficiency of magnesium, calcium, manganese, zinc, and iron. And this is a typical abiotic stress. Look how uniform that pattern is. Soil pH is very important in the availability and presence of microorganisms, and you do want a good diversity there to have healthy soil. So fungi are going to be more suited to acidic conditions, and bacteria are going to want to be in a more neutral or barely acidic condition. So if you've got a strongly acidic condition, you may not have as much nitrogen fixing as you would like. Soils that have a low pH, like 5.5 and below, you're going to have a low availability of calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus, and the solubility of aluminum, iron, and boron is high and can cause damage to the roots. If you're going to use pesticides, sometimes they're usually labeled for specific soil conditions, and if you have a soil pH that's not correct for that condition, the pesticide may become ineffective. It may change to an undesirable form, and it may not degrade. You may not break down as quickly as you would like, and then your next crop is going to suffer. So if you are going to use pesticides, you need to make sure that you have the correct conditions so it's the most effective. Blossom end rot in pepper and tomatoes. There are other things that get this as well. It's primarily an irrigation problem. There's not enough water reaching the fruit. So you'll see a light green or yellow sunken spot. It becomes larger, and then you usually have an opportunistic fungal species that comes in and takes advantage. So some of the reasons here, we've got insufficient irrigation, poorly drained soil, a poor root system, root knot nematode, root damage, a calcium deficiency, but for the most part it's a calcium deficiency because transpiration is how calcium moves through the plant, and if you don't have correct irrigation, you're going to have a problem with calcium. So you can see here's watermelon also gets this. Basically, it's involved in cell wall development, and if you don't have enough calcium, you're going to have tissues collapse. If you have too much nitrogen, it can cause the calcium to move toward the foliage and not the fruit. So nitrogen is a primary nutrient and mobile, so you're going to see the new growth is going to look better than the older growth. Phosphorus is also a mobile nutrient. It's a primary nutrient involved in cell division, blooming and fruiting, etc. So the leaf margins are going to look burnt, and then you will have dark green or reddish purple lower foliage. Potassium is also a primary nutrient and mobile, important in cell wall development and opening and closing of stomata. Deficiency is most common in palms. You get intraveinal chlorosis and then necrosis, which is death. Iron is very important in chlorophyll formation. It's an immobile nutrient, so you get intraveinal chlorosis. That's usually confined to the upper portion of the plant. Your small veins don't remain green and the plant becomes stunted. So you can use chelated iron, and if you're going to use it as a soil application, you do it near the drip line. You want to avoid sidewalks. If you are applying, because it does cause rust, if you are applying the foliage onto the foliage, cloudy days or evenings are best. So one problem you get into here is glyphosate damage, and it may not be you using it, it may be your neighbor. It's non-selective. It means it kills anything. It translocates, so it moves through plants. And so you're going to see this chlorosis or necrosis of plant tissue. It shows up in 10 to 14 days. There may be a change in flower color. There may be stunting. So here we have, on pepper, we have glyphosate injury, and then a Scotch pine with glyphosate injury. Dicamba is another thing you might find in weed and feed, and this causes distorted leaves and shoots. This is actually corn. So depending on the type of action producing symptoms, you may have air pollution injury, sulfur dioxide injury, acid injury, ashfall injury. These are all air pollution. Here we have pollution damage on a mugo pine. You may also have high salt levels, so that's going to reduce water uptake by plants, restrict your root growth, cause marginal burning, inhibit flowering, limit seed germination, reduce fruit and vegetable yields, and actually crop yields may be reduced by as much as 25%, and you may not even know why. So it's usually worse during hot, dry weather when you're using quite a bit of water. It can build up in fertilizers, and you can see the margins here. This is salt injury on the leaves. Another problem we get into is sun scald or sunburn. Bark, fruit, and leaves are exposed to direct sunlight and injured by heating and drying of tissue. Typically most severe in south and southwest sides of trees. Sunburn typically occurs when the trees defoliate, so you're going to see the fruit of the previously shaded bark be exposed. Happens a lot on newly planted trees, and the trees are unable to take up enough water because the roots are unhealthy or there's inappropriate irrigation. So management includes proper care, whitewashing young trees at planting, and there are special whitewash products available. You can also use white interior latex. Needs to be diluted 50%. You can also use tree wraps, but be aware that you do not want to keep the tree wrap on the trees. And speaking of leaving things on trees, here's somebody decided to tie the base of this tree with some sort of string or jute, and obviously it's become part of the tree. It's girdled it, so it's structurally not sound. And here's what can happen when you have that situation.